Well, Rhody Nation, the 2024 Rhode Island Rams football season has come and gone. A sad day, but yet a wonderful and successful year for the 2024 Rams. Connor Derosia, Jonny Blair, and Noah McLane breaking down the final episode. Man, it is hard to believe that. We will reflect on the 2024 season, the playoff journey, what's next for Rhode Island, and just the season finale as a whole of the 2024 Rhody Football Gameday. All of that next right here. Well, guys, as the Rhode Island Rams season now obviously has come to an end, let's kind of just take a moment to reflect on the playoffs and just becoming that most storied, most winning team in Rhode Island football history. We began the year with a 3-1 record going into the bye week with one loss coming to Minnesota. Obviously, a tough game down there, but in a very talented opponent. We saw them play recently at Penn State game. Gave Penn State a run for their money, don't mind you. They finished 7-5 in the Big Ten, very respectable there. First three wins came against Holy Cross, Campbell, and Long Island University, LIU. But then we jumped right into a couple of things following the bye week, and Johnny, you have some more about that.
Yeah, so right after the bye week, the Rams went on a 5-game winning streak, toppling Hampton, Brown, and securing the Governor's Cup once again, keeping that trophy here in Kingston, followed by UNH, Maine as the homecoming game, and then Monmouth over family weekend. And despite the late season loss to the soon-to-be FBS team in Delaware, wins against UAlbany on senior day, and then Bryant helped the Rams go to 10-2 overall, 7-1 in conference play. Just an overall strong season for the Rams.
Yeah, you spoke on that 10-2 record, 7-1 in conference. That was good enough for the Rams to bring home their first ever CAA title. Obviously, we've won conference championships in the past, but that was before Rhode Island was in the CAA. It's the first conference championship since 1985, and the program's third ever 10-win season. Also, since that 1985 season, just a great season overall, and we'll move forward into the playoffs going forward.
Yeah, with that, Rhode Island found itself with a 10th overall seed going into the playoffs, guys. There was a lot of debate going into the playoff picture as to where this team would end up. I think a lot of people kind of felt that this team was disrespected in some aspects along the way. But nonetheless, that team, they didn't let that kind of bring them down. They would face Central Connecticut State. They got a big conference win. That's a kind of team that maybe snuck in there, but they showed that they were not to be taken lightheartedly. Really a fantastic team over there. Rams took care of business, though. 21-17, the fourth quarter, boys. They came out in that fourth quarter, and once again, I don't even get excited or nervous anymore. I kind of said that. It's just you got to see what happens, and when it happens, it'll happen. When you talk about performances, though, Malik Grant, who broke the single-season rushing yards record, just unbelievable there. Defensive tackle Wesley Neal Jr. had his moment with the game-sealing interception, and just a lot to break down there.
And Johnny, before you go into this next part, I don't know if there's anything in football that gets me more fired up than a big man interception, okay? Seeing Wesley Neal catch an over-the-shoulder pass like Marquise Buchanan had me going crazy watching the game, and just overall, what a game for the Rams that day.
And no one better really on this Rhode Island D-line to get that game-sealing interception than Wesley Neal Jr., right? And that's going to take us into the next week where, unfortunately, Rhode Island would fall to Mercer this past Saturday, 17-10, concluding their 2024 season, a historic season. It's one of those things where it's like you don't cry that it's over, you smile that it happened kind of season, where it was just there were so much good memories with this entire team. It's worth noting that every winner of the second round of the FCS playoffs has won by the team with the higher seed. So the higher seed won that game, and the Rams unfortunately fit that bill. They faced the 7 seed Mercer and just weren't able to get it done down there.
Yeah, and guys, despite the season ending, the legacy will continue, right? When you think about the players, the success, the records, the fans, the coaching staff, everything that comes with that will not be forgotten anytime soon. And there's a lot of changes that will most likely happen in the offseason, good, setbacks, whatever that may be. But this is a team, guys, when you look back, that people will remember, to say it shortly, and you will definitely have something, to think back and say, wow, you know what, that was a team that I want to go back and remember and listen to. But, when you talk about what's next, let's kind of jump right into that thing because, now we're going to take a look at what's coming next for Rhode Island football, right? On Monday, December 9th, the 24 and 25 college football transfer portal opens. We can talk about this for a long time. Those with eligibility have the opportunity to evaluate their options and enter the transfer portal. The transfer portal is a ever-evolving and chaotic scene, so we'll just leave it at that for the time being. But it's also, Johnny will talk about this in a minute, but to potentially also pick up new people in that transfer portal and see what they can build off of.
Yeah, absolutely. And for Rhode Island, it means an opportunity to replace a lot of the talent that unfortunately is leaving the door this year. A couple of notable names that are unfortunately leaving this Rhode Island team include running back Malik Grant, who we saw take massive steps to control that running game for Rhode Island, wide receiver Tommy Smith and Sean Harris Jr., Brady Rourke, D lineman Wesley Neal Jr., and Carson Primrose, along with linebacker Cole Brockwell, Gabe Solomons, Club Freddie Millay, who in this most recent game was not wearing a club anymore. And then, of course, Emmanuel Gomes with that secondary. Just a lot of talent leaving this Rhode Island team.
Yeah, and more so than just the football aspect of the whole, players graduating, players leaving, the people aspect of those. I've gotten to know some of those players very well. I have a class with Wesley Neal. Just great people overall, and people that when they came here and when they left, they made this university, this program, and all of us just better people and a better place to be. And with the Rams' success, the reality of the beast with FCS football and just football as a whole is players, when they have a good season, they tend to they transfer upwards, and players at bigger programs oftentimes transfer down a little bit to get more playing time. We've seen that happen not only with football but other sports here as well. So taking advantage of that and really owning the portal, trying to retain the guys we can, and bringing in some sleepers and developing the young talent will be huge for this Rams team going forward.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about who they brought in, and this we'll touch on it here. When they brought in the likes of Malik Grant, Sean Harris Jr., Carson Primrose, Devin Farrell, Greg Gaines III, Amari Walker. I mean, there are so many guys that you can list off here on this team. And now that was without Rhode Island having made the playoffs in a long time, guys. Now you have guys that are going to come down from those higher up programs that say, all right, here's a team that just had an unbelievable season and was probably not even expected to have that good of a season, but they made something happen, and the culture around this program buys that in that much more. So you have that culture that's been with this team for the whole time, and now you have wins and a tournament win as well to keep it that much more important. So it remains to be seen who could potentially be departing via the transfer portal, but the bottom line is that the Rams have proven capable of bringing in talent necessary to succeed and grow as a team. So with recruiting at front and center of the vision board for the 2025 roster, it is also, worth noting that the team enters the end of season holiday stretch with the staff focuses on evaluating the roster for next year.
Yeah, I also just want to say, just because somebody enters the portal doesn't mean they're leaving. Every single year, not only at URI, but bigger schools, Alabama, Penn State, Texas, whatever it may be, tons of players enter the portal, they see what they're worth, and then they come back or they leave. We've seen it here at Rhode Island last year with AJ Pena, and so it's an ever-changing environment. It's kind of treated like free agency. Oftentimes, the home team gets the chance to match whatever offer, or he might just whatever player it might be just might decide to come back and spend another year at home.
And as the winter months come in January, the Rams are going to embark on winter conditioning with those on campus upon their return from winter break, getting bigger, faster, stronger before spring training camp begins in March.
Yeah, and that one doesn't seem too far away when you think about just how fast that went. Once March hits, the Rams will experience a quick sprint through the weeks of spring ball leading into that spring game, which already is anticipated right now. You got guys that are wanting to play bigger roles, that know they're going to need to step up, that want to showcase, hey man, I want to go out and show what I can do. So we'll see that, and then obviously, of course, it's also when you have those guys that have come in from the transfer portal and just kind of see what your roster looks like. There's a lot that can happen between now and then, but for now we're still, making just trying to live in that moment of the 2024 Rams and the CAA title, the multiple records and everything, including that second round, end up there for the Rams in 2025. And let's jump into some of the 2024 Rhody Football Gameday awards. And we're going to go just kind of through this list now. And this is a chance for us to just give some well-deserved credit to some of these guys on the team. And Connor, I'll start with you this time. Let's start with Rookie of the Year. Who do you have for me?
Yeah, no, this kid is not a first-year, college student, but this is his first year being the full-time starter. I'm going with quarterback Devin Farrell. Led the team to such a good record. Only lost to Minnesota and then got hurt during that Delaware game. Was fantastic all year. There was a lot of question marks surrounding the quarterback room after Kasim Hill left. And he filled in so nicely, providing a dynamic running game and being able to get the receivers of the ball. He was amazing. I cannot wait to see what he does next year with a little more comfortability in the offense and just a little bit more understanding.
I don't tend to agree with Connor a lot of these times, but I have to agree with him on this one. Devin Farrell, who had such big shoes to fill, with Kasim Hill leaving this past year, and I think he delivered above and beyond all of our expectations, not just for himself as a player, but also leading this team to obviously the best season that they've had in 40 years. And I, again, like Connor, cannot wait to see what happens next with him.
Yeah, I'm going to stick on a similar path, but I'll tell you what, I'm going to go a different route than football, the reasoning for this pick. And you guys talked about football, I agree. But the reason why I like Devin Farrell is because he'll come up to you and on this program, right, when he's the kind of guy that wants to go up and get to know the guy behind the camera filming something. He wants to know who you are, what you're about. And even when he comes off and he's not playing in these games towards the end of the season, his attitude is positive. He's helping out. He wants people to succeed. And it's contagious, right? When you think about the guy that you want, to your point, Jonny, leading this team, and guys, he's young, right? He has a lot of opportunities to come back. This is only going to help him. If he goes down with that injury, kind of says, all right, my year's done, forget it. That kind of throws him out the window. But I think we're all on the same page in that sense. So let's go. This might feed into what we were talking about just now. But let's go impact transfer of the year and who we might start with. Connor?
Yeah, once again, I got two answers to this one. First off, Devin Farrell. Come in, sitting under Kasim Hill for a year has been amazing. Also, Sean Harris Jr. We've seen him make so many plays on special teams, multiple big plays. Anytime he has the ball in his hands, he's a threat to score. He's been huge for this Rhode Island offense and special teams.
Jonny?
And for me, I'm just going to go to the defensive side of the ball. It's going to be Carson Primrose. And for me, he came in, transferred in, and he just helped control the trenches for this Rhode Island team. He was fantastic, and he just declared for the NFL draft, so congrats to him, and good luck with the draft process going forward. But he was fantastic for this Rhode Island team, really helped solidify that defensive line, a defensive line that proved to be super critical to the Rams' success this past season.
Yeah, absolutely. And guys, Jonny, to your point, games can be won in the trenches, but I think there's also somebody, when we've been talking about records and talking about success, Malik Grant. He just was phenomenal. When you talk about Tommy Touchdowns has got his nickname. I don't know what we should call Malik Grant, maybe just a stud, but he has just been so phenomenal for this offense, and to watch his just vision of the field. He's so patient, but he's so quick, right? It doesn't make sense, but just watching him play and escape these tackles, I think he's just so crafty with his play and a great guy to be around as well. Let's go special teams player of the year. We're going to switch it up. Jonny, we'll start with you.
I think it's the kicker, Ty Groff. He had a fantastic season this entire year, and he just was money when Rhode Island needed points on the board, and not just converting on extra points and just making these The things he makes it look easy, but it's not as easy as it looks. We've showed that on this show how hard it is to kick a football, and he makes it look much easier than it actually is.
Connor?
Yeah, I've got 2 picks. Giving flowers as much as I can as we wrap up this season. But I've got, first off, long snapper Donato Crisanti, good friend of the program. Just always on target with his snaps and running down the field, great in coverage. Been amazing. And then a little unconventional pick, Wesley Neal Jr. on the defensive side of the ball. Multiple blocked field goals, has just been amazing. Blocked a kick to win a game. And the defensive side of special teams doesn't get talked about a lot, but he's been paramount to staging multiple late comeback victories.
Yeah, I got to give Donato another shout here, just because I've gotten to know him on a personal level pretty well over the past few weeks, and he's another guy that also has just announced that he is going to try his hand in the draft waters as well. So a big shout out to him. We'll keep it short and sweet, but got to give credit where credit is due. Mr. Long Snapper himself. We wish you the best. Let's go offensive player of the year, and there are so many weapons, but Connor, we'll go back to you first for this one. Offensive player of the year, what do you got for me?
Yeah, I've got Marquise Buchanan. Name hasn't really been mentioned much today, but over 1,000 yards receiving, the clear number 1 receiver for this Rams team in a very talented receiver room. You got Greg Gaines III, you got Sean Harris Jr., you got Tommy Touchdown, who came on so strong towards the end of the year. But it was all for nothing if Marquise Buchanan did not show up and show out. So I think he earned a clear, MVP, especially for the receiver room. Yeah. I've got an idea who you guys might pick, some record breakers as well. But Marquise Buchanan was paramount to this offense being successful this year.
Absolutely, Johnny.
I think it's hard for me not to give it to Malik Grant just because of how, not just the stats behind it, but how crucial he was in the latter weeks of the season, kind of helping Rhode Island elevate to that playoff status. He was scoring 4 touchdowns a game, it seemed like, towards the end of the season, and even against CCSU in that round 1 victory. He was fantastic, and he deserves all the flowers for how much he helped this Rhode Island offense.
I'm gonna take a little bit of a hot take here, and I'll explain why. I'm actually gonna go Hunter Helms, and here's why. Because Hunter Helms, I don't think was expecting to play another down of football before Devin Farrell went out with an injury, right? And he gets tossed in there, and did he have the most success? No. Right? But however, he kept his head high and he kept grinding it out, and he got this team, despite that loss down there at Delaware. When he went in late, he saw what happened. Then he was able to kind of keep things moving along, and he had glimpses of success, and I think that he is a guy that really continued to move this team in the right direction. So I'm going to give some flowers to Hunter Helms in that sense. Let's go to the defense, and man, there is just a lot of guys, and there is certainly a couple that we can talk about for a long time. But Connor, we'll start with you. Defensive side, what do you got?
Yeah, there's about 10 guys on this defense that deserve it all.
Yep.
I'm just going to go with my favorite player, Club Freddie Malay. A little undersized in the corner position, but fighting through a wrist-hand injury. We're in a club for about half the season, flying around, taking the best matchup every single game. He was just a joy to watch, and just an amazing teammate, amazing person. And just crazy good football player, and you cannot watch a URI football game and not see number 3 flying around in the secondary.
And for me, I'm going to stay on the defensive side. Obviously, it's the Defensive Player of the Year award. It's going to be Cole Brockwell. I think he was fantastic this entire season. And again, I'm going to kind of stay on this trend of having big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
I mentioned with Devin Farrell previously, with Kasim Hill, Evan Stewart leaving this team this past year. Cole Brockwell filled in phenomenally, manning the middle linebacker area and kind of being the captain of this defense. He was so fantastic and really just helped fill gaps and be the all-around player and help this defense elevate. It was fantastic to watch.
I'm going to go with 2-for-1 special here. I'm going Wesley Neal Jr. and I'm going AJ Pena, right? I mean, I feel like these two guys we can't not mention in these things. I'll start with Wes. Wes had just unbelievable heroics throughout this season. He was the guy that I think in the beginning of the year he was doing his job. He was successful, but people kind of he kind of was flying under the radar a little bit. But then he really started to build his way out, showcase who he was, his kind of game. And I think that once he started to play and get that confidence back up after the first game or two, he was fantastic, just really moving bodies around, guys. And then, I mean, we've mentioned him so many times. And actually, before I jump to A.J. Pena, Wesley Neal Jr. is also moving his hand into the draft water. So a big shout out to that for Wesley Neal Jr. A.J. Pena, obviously, he is one of the most I think, raw emotion and tenacious players that I have ever seen. But he plays the game right, and he plays it in a way where he hits somebody as hard as that he can, but he doesn't want to see them leave the field in a stretcher. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, he's the kind of guy where he wants to watch the lights go out, but hopes they turn back on. And it's a crazy thing to be able to switch that on and off. But bigger than that, I think he's also a leader where guys look up to. And not to mention, of course, we'll kind of keep it there, but he has been a leader in so many categories. So a tip of the cap also to A.J. Pena. Now let's go into one of the more difficult ones to decide. Let's go MVP right here. So, Connor, what do you got for me?
This is hard because everyone thinks MVP is quarterback award. You're going to give it to a quarterback when they kind of split the season, injuries, and then, great play from Hunter Helms down the stretch. And Noah, you spoke earlier on Hunter Helms, maybe not having the success he wanted, but it led to wins in the playoffs and down the stretch. Any coach, Jim Fleming would tell you, Hunter Helms could have thrown 6 picks a game. If it led to a win, he did not care, okay? Winning football games is all that matters. With that being said, I don't think there was anyone that was more impactful to winning than that of Malik Grant, okay? Struggled early in the season and then turned it on about 2-3 games in, multiple 200-yard rushing games, countless touchdowns, and just down the stretch of the season, when defenses are tired, he was still running. He was taking 40-yard handoffs to the house. Just an overall great season by Malik Grant, and he is my MVP of this Rhode Island team.
Thank you, Connor. Johnny, what do you got for me?
For me, I'm going to kind of merge 2 different awards into one. It's going to be MVP and Coach of the Year. I'm going to give it to Coach Jim Fleming. I think he deserves all of the credit for a lot of the credit for this success of the Rams team, just because of the amount of adversity this team faced and just their ability to stick with it, not get too high on that winning streak, not to get too low when, say, Devin Farrell went out or after the Minnesota loss. It was a constant ship, and he just continued to grind and win throughout all of the injuries and everything going on outside of the building. It was a true joy to be around this team, and I think he gets so much credit for manning this boat.
Yeah, I'm torn, right? Because we've just talked about so many guys and their capabilities to do things on every side of the ball, special teams, defense, offense. But again, I'm going to go back to this guy because I don't think that Rhode Island has the mentality and the success without him, and I have to go with A.J. Pena, right? And just because his attitude is unlike anything else, and his play speaks for itself. So we'll keep it at that. MVP there. Let's jump into the play of the year, and I'm actually going to start this time. We're going to switch it up a little bit here, and I'm going to go back to that very first game of the season. The play of the year is the Miracle at Meade catch for me, because I think if they lose that game, they don't have the season. I think straight up there is not as much success. Guys don't have the same attitude. If you lose that first game to Holy Cross at home on your own field, I don't think that this team gets to where they were at the end. So I think that was the play that set them up for success in the future. So that's my play of the year.
Yeah, I'm going with Wesley Neal. You guys remember Albany down 17-0 at halftime. The Rams go on to score 20 unanswered points. Rams, we sort of botch a punt down with about 50 seconds left. Albany gets in field goal range. They're trying to field goal with not a lot of time on the clock. And who else but big number 99 reaches his big old paw up there and smacks it down to seal the victory for Rhode Island. That's a W that, if that's a loss, who knows where Rhode Island's sitting in terms of playoffs, if we even make it. So that was a defining moment, and just kind of a nice wrap-up to the whole season where it has been the comeback kids all year. It's been that defensive line, Carson Primrose, Wesley Neal Jr., Gabe Solomons, A.J. Pena. it was a nice wrap-up moment and just a crazy experience. We were all on the sideline, and I don't think I've ever been in a more electric environment in sports than when he got that big old paw up there and blocked it, boys.
All right, well, thank you. And Johnny, last but not least.
And I'm going to stay with Wesley Neal Jr., and this is kind of a testament to who he is as a player and what he's meant to this Rhode Island program. But I'm going to set the stage here a little bit, okay? It's your first home playoff game of the year, and you need a defensive stand to help win this game against Central Connecticut State University. The ball gets tipped up, and who else but Wesley Neal Jr.
Yep.
seals the victory with that interception. Just an insane play by an insane player. He's been fantastic, and that's my play of the year.
Love it. Now, let's go to the game of the year because, I mean, man, there is just so many games to look back on. I'll start us off again here. But for me, I think the game of the year was probably that Albany game, or I have to go UNH. One of those two, just being on the sideline, and when you see what it means to these guys, to the coaches, to the players, to the fans, to former players that are traveling down to these places, whether it was at UNH or here on the sideline at URI, you realize just how much it was, and to watch that success just come to fruition was really awesome. And obviously the Albany game with the heroics that had, and UNH, it just felt good to watch the Wildcats burn. So that's what I got for you. Connor, we'll start with you. Game of the year.
Yeah, for me it has to be that first playoff game. First time the Rams are in the playoffs in 40 years. First ever CAA championship title. So it has to be that Central Connecticut State game where it was at home. We took a victory. It was a nail-biter the entire way. We didn't really know if it was going one way or the other. It was new territory for us, but it was a nice win at home. The students showed out, and the team showed out even more.
Yep.
And
Johnny?
For me, I'm going to talk about the last regular season game of the season, going to Bryant and just securing the CAA championship there. That's a big win, not just obviously because it's a win against an in-state rival in Bryant, but just what it meant for the program to finally get that conference championship under your belt. A big celebration at the end. It was a fun time, and the team obviously deserves it.
Yeah, absolutely. And man, with that, guys, that is pretty much what we have for you guys. Thank you so much for all of you, the regulars. Maybe if this is your first time tuning in, thank you. We appreciate it. But for tuning in all season long to Rhody Football Game Day, Connor Derosia, Jonny Blair, I want to give these two guys a huge shout out being with me for the last year, well, 2 years now. Last year a little more under the radar, but really building from the ground up. I would be foolish not to also give a shout out to Mason Smoller, who was working on his out of, not even a man with a position last year, and now he has just really watched all of this, brought all of this to life, and a big shout out to him and everyone that has been a part of this journey. But we just love giving you guys the honor. We love talking, and hopefully you guys like listening. So hopefully, you guys get to learn a little bit about Rhode Island, see some behind the things. Make sure you guys follow along with @Rhody Football Front Office on social media. We are going to be keeping along when we can, with these kind of, interviews and things like that at some points into leading up to the 2025 spring game in April. But Connor and I will be stepping aside as seniors, so we want to say thank you. Johnny will be here. He will be holding down the fort. So again, just look out for that. Of course, the spring game, that will be back. But for now, one last time, for Connor Derosia, Jonny Blair, myself, Noah McLane, saying stay safe, stay dry, go Rhody.